In this video we're going to take a look at the coding side of Advanced Scene Manager. Advanced Scene Manager comes with a powerful API, but with great power comes a learning curve. If you're using our flow editor, you can skip this part. Let's get started. I've created a scriptable object where I will build my custom loading logic. We like scriptable objects, as you may have noticed. It's a great feature to write reusable code in, but it's in no way a requirement for you. Let's have a look at our variables first. As all things in Advanced Scene Manager is scriptable objects, it's easy to reference scenes and collections anywhere. If you're using multiple profiles for different build targets, I recommend using the profile dependent equivalent, where you can reference different scenes depending on the profile. This is great when you have one profile for demo and one for the full game, where your scenes and collection will often differ. Profile dependent scenes or collections requires a separate scriptable object. Right-click the project, create the one you need. Add your scenes and profiles you wish to target. Then you can add it to your script as a scene or collection would. In code, all these variables will have similar methods for opening and closing. For the rest of this video, I will keep to scenes and collections. The Scene Manager class is where you will access everything you need. You will most likely access the runtime and events. There is just too much in the Scene Manager to add to a video, so we will focus on loading scenes in this one. You can load scenes through runtime, but you are way more likely to use the reference directly. We have different ways to load scenes and collections. This is to ensure maximum flexibility. But I often say, keep it simple. Often it's not the fancy over-engineered load you need. The most common thing I say when people ask about preloading is that surprisingly preloading is rarely the thing you need. But let's have a quick look at preloading. Preloading works for both scenes and collections, and you call finish preload when you're ready to activate them. Check is preloaded to see if a scene is ready to be activated. This is best used with coroutines or awaitables if you prefer that. If you're using coroutines, use our start coroutine to prevent a coroutine from being cancelled, if you do this in a mono behavior. By Unity Design, you can preload multiple scenes at a time and add more to preload, but no scene can be activated independently. This is the major confusion for many, as you might believe that you can load a scene in between. For example, to preload a scene, then open a loading screen to hide the activation when you finish it. But this is just not possible, as the loading screens cannot be activated before the preloaded scenes, since our loading screens are scenes. You would have to use a canvas loading screen if you need that to work. If you do have questions about preloading, you can always ask us in Discord. Let's move on from preloading. As I mentioned, there are different ways to load scenes. I recommend to start with the Fluent API. It's the easiest and best understood one. You simply just chain actions together. Normally the loading screen of the collection is used. Add this to assign a new one. All our loading screens are scenes, so you can reference them. All our methods can be awaited, so you know perfectly when a scene is done. Another way to structure the loading is in a coroutine or awaitable. This gives you the most flexibility, but it's more difficult. But it allows you to do things in between the calls you make. Advanced Scene Manager is moving more towards awaitables today, so I recommend learning it, but coroutine is always supported. For those who prefer Unitask, are aware of the Unitask and awaitable conversion. Use this if you really can't make it work with the Fluent API alone. Here's an example, where we first open a loading screen Opening it this way allows it to be open during the entire coroutine process. Where if we were to add it in one call, it would only stay open for that period. Then we open a collection. When the collection is done, we can do a API call. And when the API is done, we close the loading screen. Now this is the part when I need to talk a little about scene operations. Scene operations are the most difficult part of the asset to understand. It even confuses me when I try to explain it. Every time you start a new load, a scene operation is queued. Chaining in Fluent API is one call, but every time you yield in this way, it's multiple calls. Here we have one for the loading screen, one for opening of collection, and then one for closing the loading screen. And knowing this will be good, because for every operation, callbacks are called. So if I were to add a scene to open, the callback for a collection open would be called in between. But if I add scene open to the Fluent API, the callback for collection open would be called after the scene was opened. And knowing this will make more sense in the callback and events video. But simply, scene operations are lists of which scene to open and which scene to close, with which loading screen should open, and a set of callbacks that will trigger. And every open and close method and so on is an instruction to Advanced Scene Manager how to structure the scene operation. If you notice that your callback is called before you want it to, it might be a scene operation thing. And if we wanted to fix the issue here, we would move the scene to be with the collection open. Now the callback will be called after the collection open and scene open. That's it for this video. If you made it this far, please write a review for our asset. It's the best way to help us reach more people.